Hi there, you've got Helen today for the Stitch of the Week series. Today we're going to be looking at the bean stitch. So you can see that here, the bean stitch. Now we do quite like to at least try to get you all a little free pattern so that you can practice the stitch whilst also creating something, because just doing swatches can get a little bit boring. So what we've got for you for this particular stitch is this coffee cup cozy. Now I do have a Starbucks travel mug here, so you can see it fits on really well. It's really cute, and of course it is the season for it. So we've got 5 or 6 designs of the coffee cup cozy, each using a different stitch. So for instance, we've got the cross stitch, we've got a shell stitch, we've got a star stitch, we've got the bean stitch, and we've got one that has the bean and the cross stitch mixed into it, which looks a bit like hugs and kisses, you know, when you write it on a little note. So we're going to have a look at this particular stitch. We do have a video on the Stitch of the Week series where I have gone through how to make this particular one step by step. So we've gone through the back loop only, we've done the camel stitch, then we worked through the bean stitch, and then back to the camel again. So there is an entire video on how to make this particular one, but I just happen to have the cross stitch one here. We did that one slightly differently because we'd already gone through the bottom sections of these. We literally just did the texture section, but the video for the bean stitch does tell you all about the back loop only and the camel stitch, as well as the crab stitch. So there you have it. So in order to work the bean stitch, now I should just say as well that that pattern is free on Ravelry, and it'll be free on the blog as well. If you choose to use the blog, which is sunflowercottagecrochet.com, you will need to set up an account with us, but by doing that it's allowed us to create kind of a bit like a library, much the same as what Ravelry has, so that pattern will always be there for you. So if it gets lost or it gets ruined and you spill a cup of coffee all over it, you just log on and download another copy. So moving on to the bean stitch, I'm going to do this one in rows for you just to show you how it's worked. So I've done a couple of rows already. I've chained an even number of stitches along the bottom. So you can see we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 on this particular swatch. So I've done 2 rows. I'm going to do my alternate chain 3 to start, which is effectively single crochet, a chain and a chain. And I'm just going to come in a bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing there. So that counts as a stitch. In this first stitch, we need to wrap our yarn, insert our hook, wrap our yarn again and pull through. Pull it a little bit so that we have the same height on all of them. Then we wrap our yarn and we insert it into that same stitch again, wrap our yarn and pull it through. And again, make sure that there's quite a bit of slack there so that we can pull all the hoops up to the same height. Then we wrap our yarn once more, insert it into the same stitch, wrap our yarn and pull up. So we've done that 3 times in total now. Then we wrap our yarn, pull through all of the loops and chain 1. Now because we've chained 1, we miss the next stitch and we do the same thing into the stitch after that. So we wrap our yarn, insert our hook, wrap our yarn, pull it up. So that's the first one. And notice how I'm allowing it to stretch up so they're all the same height. Wrap our yarn, insert our hook into that same stitch, wrap our yarn and pull it through and give it a little tug so it reaches the correct height. And do that one more time into the same stitch. So there we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches on our hook. So then we'll wrap our yarn, and we'll pull through all 7 stitches and chain 1. Then we skip the next stitch because we have chained 1. It does count as a stitch. Wrap our yarn, insert it into the next stitch, wrap our yarn and pull through, and just tug it so it gets the correct height. Wrap our yarn, insert it, wrap it, pull it through and give it a tug, and again. So we've got those 7 stitches on our hook. Wrap our yarn and pull through all 7 and chain 1. Skip the next stitch, into the next stitch. We need to be inserting our hook to create those 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wrap our yarn and pull through all 7 stitches. Wrap our yarn and pull through. Sorry, the cotton has just split a little bit there. So miss the next stitch because our chain 1 counts, and into the next stitch. So we'll wrap our yarn, insert it into the next stitch, wrap our yarn and pull it through, give it a tug, wrap our yarn, insert it into the same stitch, wrap our yarn and pull it through. So there we have 5 stitches on our hook. Wrap our yarn, insert it into the same stitch again, wrap it, pull it through, give it a little tug for the height, and wrap our yarn and pull through all 7 stitches and chain 1. And it really is that simple. I'll just go all the way to the end for you, because if you want to do it in rows like this, I'll just show you how we finish. We'll finish with 2 stitches at the end, the chain 1 space and the the turn and chain from the previous row. So 2, 3. So this is the last stitch of this row. So I've got my 7 stitches, wrapped the yarn, pulled it through. Chain 1 counts, so that's this one here. So in the top of the next stitch, which is the chain from my alternate chain 3, we're literally just going to do a double crochet, and then we would turn, do our alternate double crochet or our chain 3, and in the very next stitch, and in the very next stitch we would start our bean stitch. Just bear with me a moment, because there we go, that's better. So turn our work, alternate chain 3, and then in the very next stitch we start the bean and the chain 1. Have a tussle with my wool. Chain 1, skip 1 and bean stitch in the next stitch, and that really is all there is to it. As I say, we do have the Copy Cut Cozy, which is free on our blog and on Ravelry for you to be able to practice this stitch. We also have a page collection which is primarily baby things, burp cloths, bibs, drill bibs, that sort of thing. There's a baby blanket in there as well. There's a page shawl that uses the bean stitch mixed with the cross stitch. Again, we have another tutorial for that available for you, so if you'd like to go and check any of those out, feel free. I do hope you've enjoyed this video today, or at least found it useful. Please give us the thumbs up, and if you would like to subscribe, remember to click the bell icon so that you'll be notified of any updates or uploads that we do. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Bye.